A special session on Saturday to pass the 2024 appropriation bill. This comes barely 4 weeks after President Bola Tinubu led the 2024 spending plan to a joint session of the National Assembly.
The business of the day is presentation of report.
After a 45-minute closed-door meeting, the House set out for the business of the day.
Executive forwarded request for additional funding in some items of expenditure to the committee, which were not included in the bill as submitted by the President. In order to accommodate the request, the following adjustments have been made on the bill: foreign exchange differential, GOE's revenue increase, GOE's personnel reductions, service-wide board wage adjustments, reduction from service-wide board.
Moments later, the House dissolved into the Committee of Supply for a clause-by-clause consideration of the committee's report.
Carried. It is my pleasure to report that the House, in the Committee of the Supply, considered the report of the Committee on Appropriation on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund from the Federation the total sum of 28,777,404,073,861 naira.
The House approved 28.77 trillion naira, raising Mr. President's budget estimate by 1.2 trillion naira. A breakdown shows that 1.74 trillion naira is for statutory transfers, 8.27 trillion naira as debt servicing, 8.76 trillion naira for recurrent expenditure, and 9.99 trillion naira as contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure. The lawmakers call on the federal government to comply with the provisions of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which stipulate that the appropriation bill should be presented 3 months before the end of the year. The House also taxed revenue-generating agencies to up their games to improve funds accruing into government's coffers. Now that the 2024 appropriation bill has been passed, the buck stops at the table of Mr. President, and Nigerians expect that this time the budget will make impactful deliveries in their lives. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
And for more on this, I'm being joined by our correspondent, Joke Adisa, and she joins me now from Abuja. So, Joke, quite a long day it must have been for you and TJSU on the coverage of the 2024 appropriation bill by the National Assembly. But let's get let's get more understanding on the passage, or the approval rather, of the National Assembly on the extended borrowing plan for this federal government, the 2022 to 2024 national extended borrowing plan. Give us more insights on what this means for the country.
Well, Esther, it will be recalled that shortly before President Bola Tinubu presented the 2024 budget estimates to a joint session of the National Assembly in November, he sent in some requests to the National Assembly, one of which was the approval. One of them sought the approval of the National Assembly to approve some monies for as a part of the 2022 to 2024 external borrowing plan. And so that was what we saw. Upon receipt of that request, the Committee on Finance was mandated to carry out its legislative action on that request. And so what we saw today was that those assignments were delivered by that committee. If you look through the Mr. President's request, he actually requested that $8.6 billion be approved, and another 100 million naira. I mean, 100 million pounds to be approved in that plan, to 2022 to 2024 external borrowing plan. And so that was what we saw today. Let me also say that it was one plan that was inherited by the Bola Tinubu government. The former president actually prepared it, but just about days to the end of its administration, but could not bring it before the National Assembly. And so that was what the President Bola Tinubu brought before the National Assembly late November, some 2-3 days before he brought in the budget. So now the National Assembly, the House of Reps, has been able to work on it and had it passed today. So it was indeed a very busy day for them. They passed so many of Mr. President's bills requesting. There was also one on securitization. So they did all of this just because they are determined to have Nigeria have a January to December budget cycle. And so that was what we saw today. That loan, as it were, well, it's the government has requested and the National Assembly has approved. So it's now for the government to go out for that loan and actually use it for the purpose for which it is meant.
Indeed, the external borrowing plan, I meant to say, it's quite worrying to some Nigerians knowing our debt profile. But what are the likely implications of this, considering that our level of external debt has reached about 90 trillion naira? What more can you tell us about what you're hearing, considering the likely implications of this external borrowing plan?
Well, yes, I do know that many economic experts have been raising fears about Nigeria's rising debt profile. But the government has over time insisted there is no cause for worry, and that they know they understood every step that they take. Now, with the government has come out in this plan. The plan is, like government said, is to use this particular loan for infrastructural development. And if you also recall, I recall that the Debt Management Office was at one of these budget defense sessions recently, alleged fears of Nigerians. It did say that, yes, there was nothing bad in borrowing, but what is most significant, what is more important, is what that loan is used for. And so, the government has told, in line with the Mr. President's request, the government has said this particular loan is for infrastructural development that is to bridge the infrastructural deficit in the country. So it is. I'm sure by the time this loan is sought and received and put into good use, I'm sure many Nigerians will feel it. Will feel the impact, particularly when you look at the fact that yes, no country is an island. Every country needs some form of support from one place or another. But in this case, when you're talking about obtaining a loan, this has been obtained, and Nigeria can only make good use of it and let it impact positively in the lives of the citizens. I think that is what is more important, what is of utmost concern to every Nigerian. If you are borrow it is not to borrow for consumption, but let's borrow to produce, let's borrow to see, so that when we see the impact, we'll know that yes, this is impacting our lives, and we'll also be able to support the government to see how